What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Exchanges Mandalorian After Show. We're here for Chapter 20. A lot to dissect, even though it was the shortest episode of the series. But before we get into it, Mike, how are you going this week?
Hey, I'm doing great. If you've been following me on Instagram, you know what's up. But another week where we get a great Bad Batch episode and a really good Mando episode. So I'm hyped to talk about all things Mando today. But how about you, Ari? How's it going for you?
Doing not bad. Pretty busy lately, but always time to sit down, talk Mando with a few Star Wars lovers like myself. So, introducing our guest today. It is officially Star Wars, Brodie from Instagram. We got to spend some time with Brodie in Anaheim last year, so good to finally have you on the pod. How you going, man?
Dude, I'm feeling good. I'm ready to talk Mando. I appreciate you guys having me on. I got two goats with me, so actually three goats because we got Grogu right here. So
yeah.
I appreciate it, guys. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Brodie is for the listeners. Brodie is how many years have we been friends, Brodie? Like since?
Well, I've been doing it for 8 years, so probably close to that.
Yeah, This is my 10th year, so
yeah.
You know what? I remember
that's
being connected.
That's veteran status right there.
I wear the badge proudly, man.
Yeah.
I remember being connected with you because I seen your account sometimes on the gram, but I had done like a Oscar Star Wars Awards or something.
Dude,
voted for you as their favorite page, and so then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give this guy a follow and shout on everything. And yeah, people voted for you. Now I'm still holding on to that theory that people are confusing the main Star Wars account and you, but that's all right.
Hey man, whatever it takes to get a W.
You are officially Star Wars.
That's just real quick core memory though, dude. I haven't even thought about that in so long.
I know.
You unlocked a core memory for me because I just remember, I think I talked to you about this in Anaheim, but in 2015, you sent me a message, Brodie. It said, "Hello. Just trying to get my account out there. Please check out my profile and follow if you like it. Thanks." Now, I did leave you on red. However, this shows that Brodie is a hustler. He's got a good work ethic, and we love having him in the Star Wars community. So good to have you on today.
Dude, I appreciate it.
Heck yeah.
Hey, and that just goes to show right there. It ain't just a name, man. It's the hustle, all right?
It's the hustle.
I mean, if for our YouTube audience, this is Brodie sent me this wasn't during a like kind of dark time in my life, but he brightened my day with his stickers and magnets. This one's a magnet, and this is a Bo-Katan magnet that he sent me. And I remember you sending me that, and that made like my week. I was like, man, this is so cool, like Star Wars stickers and magnets, and that's a Bo-Katan. So awesome. He is a hustler. He's been doing podcasts, stickers, like action figure collection, shooting and stuff like that. So he gets around, as they say.
I get around, you know.
Yes.
No, it really is just like, I just feel like Star Wars, there's so many different outlets within it. Like when you see it on social media and stuff, cosplay, photography, all this crazy stuff. And I've always wanted to at least try it, you know. And I get a little hyper focused here or there on one thing or another, but you know, officially Star Wars has always been the main thing to go back to day in, day out. And you know what that's like, Mike, years and years and years of posting every single day.
Are my gray hairs showing?
Because... Yeah, I know, right?
Man, so sure. We're happy to have Brodie on, and we had a great time with him at Star Wars Celebration and everything. So heck yeah.
Definitely. And before we start talking about Mandalorian, Brodie, what is your relationship like with the show? What did you think of the first 2 seasons, and how are you going with season 3 so far?
Season 1 and 2, me and Mando, we were like this, you know, like our relationship was really good. Season 3, I'm liking it. I mean, like it isn't as like, the storyline is not as like cohesive, I feel like, as season 1 and 2. There's definitely a lot more jumping around, but I feel like they are trying to build the world a little bit more, which, you know, I feel like they were focusing on the Mandalorian and Grogu so much in season 1 and season 2, and now we're starting to see all the Mandalorian aspects and all that lore from Clone Wars, Rebels, you know, creeping into this show, which is, I feel like, you know, maybe distracting from some of the general viewership and catering more to the diehard nerds like us, you know. But I'm enjoying it, man. Like every week I've had fun with it, and the second viewing is always the best. That's what I say. So
fair enough. You know something's good when you have to watch it twice. Am I right?
yeah.
Anyway, Brodie, jumping straight to you. What did you think of this week's episode?
I would, if I had to rate it, I would probably give it like an 8 out of 10. If I feel like the second episode, chapter 18, that was probably as close to a 10 out of 10 for this season so far. I just feel like the structure of this episode was a little wacky, but I feel like the content was, I mean, like 3 years ago, you know, if you told me that we'd be seeing Ahmed Best, you know, play a Jedi, I would just like, I would lose my mind and it wouldn't make any sense to me. But, you know, we're getting stuff like that now and it's somewhat feels normal, which is crazy, you know. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it this week.
Absolutely. Mike, how about you? How'd you go this week?
Oh man, I thought this was a really fun episode. I thought that, I don't know, like I walked away being like, okay, definitely felt the impact of the runtime and the lack of some things, because I feel like they keep ice skating over some larger things. And I think this episode, I did like it a lot. I admired it. Ahmed Best obviously was like the jaw drop moment. They could have easily went for it. It was Plo Koon who saved him. Mace Windu. It was Kid Fisto.
Yeah.
You know, they could have retconned that and just try to make it fan servicey. But instead, they took the route of honoring a Star Wars legend who, at Star Wars Celebration Chicago, who actually right before Brodie, you know, we started recording with Brodie, we were talking about Star Wars Celebration there and how we met in person. I remember being right by the stage where we met. Ahmed Best walked out for like the first time. He made like his first con appearance like in ages, and I remember the crowd going absolutely nuts for Ahmed Best, and I remember just screaming at the top of my lungs. And he was like so taken aback by all, because that year marked 20 years since the release of The Phantom Menace. So he was there and he was just in awe and grateful. And you could just tell the look on his face that he was just like moved by the reactions of the fandom. And it's like, yeah, like all those like toxic fans, I'm sure some of them creep into Celebration, you know, but for the most part, I think all those like diehard, like loving Star Wars at the end of the day, no matter what, are the fans that make it out to Celebration. So that's the absolute love that he got that weekend. I mean, I'm seeing all the love right now on social media for him from this episode, and I'm like, man, he just deserves it. After everything he went through, he just deserves it. So that was just chilling to see. So that was great. But I kind of feel like this episode spun me on my head a little. I'm like, who's the main character of the show? Is it Grogu? Is it Din? Is it Bo-Katan? I'm a little confused. So, and I also I don't necessarily need to know where the series is going or the show's going every episode. Like Bad Batch has taught me that lesson quite well. However, I do think that there should be some, I think, Brodie, you're talking about cohesiveness. There's just seems to be no cohesiveness here. It seems that one episode we're just doing whatever the hell, and the next episode we're being serious. And to me, this episode just seemed like the show could go in any million directions. So I was a little confused and a little just you know, I had fun with it though. I can't wait to rewatch it again. But yeah, I just feel like the season is starting to feel like fluff. It doesn't, this is all, again, I've said this on the podcast millions of times, but if a story doesn't need to be told, don't tell it. And I feel like this is one of those stories that I'm just like getting like, I do love the fun goofiness of Star Wars, like pterodactyl stuff and the jetpack action. I'm like, oh man, this is how I play with my action figures. This is how I seen Clone Wars. Like, this is so awesome. But at the same time, there's just a whole bunch of, it just feels like fluff to me. There's a whole bunch of fluff this season that I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, especially when you compare Mandalorian to the previous seasons, I'm just like, oh man, I feel a little lost here. I feel like the show has really kind of lost its touch and magic. So I don't know. I'm a little confused though. I'm still a little bit like, I'm sure after the season's over, I'll be like, oh, that made sense. But for right now, I'm a little lost, Brodie. I'm a little lost. But Ari, how about you? What was your experience like watching the episode, and what are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. But well, actually, no, I don't agree with you because you're selling the episode completely short. We did get a great scene between Paz Vizsla and his son, and that's just what I've been wanting to see since this season started. So I agree with you, Mike. Yeah, the show just feels very light to me. There's no depth. There's no tension. Very little character development. No mystery. The only mystery is where the F is the show going, because it seems directionless. That's the biggest mystery of the show, to be honest. Man, I don't know. I just I don't
dude,
feel great
you're
about
talking to
season
Mando
3.
fans here, dude. This guy just got a Bo-Katan helmet. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Look, I like the show. In terms of season 3, I'm talking about. I love season 1 and 2. Season 3, I like it. It's fine, but there's really nothing to it. It feels really uninspired. It's just, hey guys, remember how Mando and Grogu were like the biggest thing for 2 years in Star Wars? Well, here's more of them, and not much else. So we'll go through the episode and talk about it. But for me, I just feel so lukewarm on the series. I've been saying it since the first episode. I'm not really caring for it, and honestly, it's something that's probably making me appreciate the show even less is how insanely hard the Bad Batch is going right now. I would argue that 4 out of 4 weeks, the Bad Batch has outdone the Mandalorian. So I don't know what to say. I'm not vibing with the show that much. It's fine. It's just fine. And if that's what we accept Star Wars to be these days, then that's okay, because maybe we're just gonna kind of continue in this direction, and things will continue to be kind of just light, no depth, and that's okay. If that's how Disney want to make their money, then sure. But I'm not vibing with it completely, is all I'll say. However, something I absolutely loved in this episode was the return of Ahmed Best. I can't add much more to what you guys said, but it's just so good to see him back in the franchise, completely bullied and outcast by some toxic fans back in the day. So that was honestly the best moment of the whole season so far. So yeah, shout out to Ahmed Best. What a great guy. No one more deserving to fill that role than him. So yeah, shout out Ahmed Best. But yeah, Ed, do we want to talk about those thoughts, or should we just go into the breakdown?
Listen, Ari, I've got something to say, man. All right,
go for it.
So, how do you feel about the fact that there's been just so much Star Wars over the past 3 years or so since the TV shows have really started?
Mm-hmm.
We saw the Mythosaur already. We saw, we just talked about it. We saw Ahmed Best come back as a Jedi wielding 2 lightsabers, saving a little baby Yoda. Like, these are things that, as Star Wars fans, I don't know, I feel like I just never would have been able to experience without this show, obviously. Like, and you have a lot of fair points, don't get me wrong. I do feel this is by far the weakest stretch of the show so far. Yeah. But it's just crazy how, like, I think this isn't necessarily directed at you, but like just in general, how we receive Star Wars now and gloss over it, and we're on to the next episode, and we want more and more and more. Whereas, like, we would be tripping over just the Mythosaur for weeks or years if it was in a movie and there was a big time gap before we got more Star Wars. I feel like people are just so used to it almost. It's just like, we're like greedy now. You're greedy, dude. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, that's a fair point. I'll say, first of all, to the Ahmed Best thing, Ahmed Best being in the episode doesn't make the episode good, because that moment being fun.
Me and Mike are real supporters. That's all I'm saying.
that moment being good has nothing to do with the show, in my opinion. If you're just a just a general watcher of The Mandalorian, you don't know much about Star Wars, that moment means nothing, because you don't know who Ahmed Best is. My brother's a massive Star Wars fan, and he didn't even know who it was. It was just, I was like, how cool was Ahmed Best? And he was like, oh, that was the Jar Jar actor. Cool. Like, that doesn't make the episode good. And with the Mythosaur, yeah, it's wild. I really liked seeing it, but once again, it doesn't make the episode good at all. If you go back to chapter 6 of Book of Boba Fett, Cad Bane's in it, Luke's training Grogu, we get R2, Ahsoka's in it, all these amazing things happen, and it's like, yeah, great, but without substance, good writing, good direction, it means nothing. You can throw as many visually pleasing things or cool Star Wars things at me, but unless I feel something from it, I don't care.
I guess I'm just a Disney shill, dude. Just give me the Star Wars.
Well, what you're saying though is like kind of like you're like the old school dad that's kind of like, don't complain about your food, just eat it type deal. It's like you're lucky you're getting fed, and that's fair
in a way. Yeah,
in a way,
for sure,
right.
for sure. I do feel like, from the perspective of fans who are old enough to remember that crushing feeling when Revenge of the Sith came out, and it felt like it was just completely over, Right. And honestly, there was probably 5-6 years after that point, Star Wars wasn't that big of a part of my life. Like in high school, I was focused on other things, sports. Like literally all we had was Clone Wars, and that's, essentially a kid show before 2015. And
watch your mouth.
What?
Watch your mouth. Clone Wars.
No, I'm not dogging that. I love Clone Wars. I'm just saying that's like all we had, and like it was on Cartoon Network, and like I didn't watch it honestly when it was coming out. I didn't watch it like day in or week in, week out.
Yeah,
and I can't remember. I was just talking to somebody. The vibes of feeling The Force Awakens coming back, and just like, man, I mean, my life has literally gone on a completely different trajectory because of Star Wars and because of what has happened since 2015. And I guess it's hard for me to lose that perspective and be overly critical like Ari's, clearly doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's completely valid.
I'm not doubting it. It's what you're saying is fair, dude. I really do feel like, they're like somehow like losing their way just a little bit with opening the story up so much. Like,
I think the downfall has been coming ever since chapter 5 of the Book of Boba Fett. I've felt this coming. We talked about it before the series even started, and I just don't think the Mandoverse or whatever you want to call it has picked itself back up again since that sort of chaos. I'd say
it has felt much more like Clone Wars vibes, where you do have an episode where it's just for fun. It's like not meant to seriously deepen the characters of the story. It's like just for fun. But when you only get 8 episodes a season and you're waiting a year to a year and a half, I mean, you do want to get the juice. And I mean, I do think there's been some highlights of the season so far, but when you compare 1 through 4 of the previous seasons, I mean, they're not close.
I was just thinking about that. By this point in season 2, we'd had the Marshal and the Heiress. By this point in season 1, we had those amazing first 3 episodes. Like, I haven't come close to feeling anything that I felt in those in the first half of the previous seasons to here. Like, I actually did before the episode came out. I rewatched all the episodes from season 3 for the first time. And I agree. Sometimes things are better on a second watch. I was kind of poking fun at you earlier in the podcast, but I didn't feel any differently about any of them, to be honest. But it is valid. Sometimes things are better on a second watch. Mike, you weigh in on this discussion
about the second watch, or just Mandalorian
just
overall?
Anything.
Mandalorian, to me, I'll say quickly before we dive in, because that's what people are here for. I'm just kidding. You guys are listening to good conversation, by the way. But I think, look, Mandalorian season 1, I think, is very special, and there's so many elements that you can just go into and go watch our friend Park's documentary of Mandalorian. Definitely. Season 1 is just lightning in a bottle. Is there an episode or two that's kind of weak? Sure. But it's overall lightning in a bottle. Like, it was the amazing Jon Favreau comes in, and he makes Star Wars feel like Star Wars again, and like for everyone. Like, the old school fans were back, the new fans were in, or new, all these newcomers. It made more of a boom than Rise of Skywalker, which is insane. Finale to the saga, the final cap. No one cared. It was Mandalorian. and the world went crazy for Mando and Grogu and lightning in a bottle, as I said. And there's just this magical feeling to season 1 that just hits so hard. Season 2 is definitely a step down from season 1, in my opinion. However, it's still good. I think the flaws of the overall series are shown in season 2. I think the overall like point A to point B, and oh Mando, you can't do that before you go off and do this mission. You gotta do a side quest here before you get there. That to me in season 2, it becomes very much shown and becomes a little bit annoying. Where it's like, man, I was watching with my parents recently because they wanted to see the series, and I kind of convinced my mom to watch it. And she was like, all right, let's watch. She absolutely loves season 1. And she really likes season 2, I could tell. But it was just like, oh man, we're going to the Jedi next. Oh wait, we gotta make a quick pit stop to go see Grief Karga for ship repairs. It's like, how many more ship repairs do we need, man? So I don't know. Season 2 kind of got a little bit, and like Ahsoka stole her episode in that episode, and Boba Fett rightfully so though stole that episode, but it just got a little bit. I felt like we were straying away from what some of season 1 did, and then season 3 definitely feels like a step down from those both seasons. But I feel like at the end, I hope the latter part of the season picks up what maybe the first 4 episodes are setting up. But for right now, it just feels, it kind of feels like fluff. There's episode 1 of season 3 is still so good, and I feel like we were recalibrating. All right, let's pick ourselves back up and let's recalibrate, and we're gonna go on this journey. Okay, cool. See, and then episode 2 really liked. I think I gave that like an 8 out of 10 or something. Really liked that episode. Then episode 3 comes along, and I'm like, great. I want to learn about the scientist guy, but did you really have to cut it up to where it's like this really important Bo-Katan Mando episode moment, and then 40 minutes of Coruscant stuff, and then jump back at the end being like,
can I interrupt real quick? I just think this is kind of random, but wouldn't it have made more sense to end the previous episode at Pershing getting his mind wiped or whatever, and then pick up this latest episode just so that the last one didn't go for an hour and this one goes for 30 minutes?
No, I completely agree. But yeah, I mean, look, overall season 3, I'm very much enjoying. I just hope that the ending punch hits hard as the previous seasons. I don't know where the season's going yet, and I'm a little bit worried about that. But it's okay. We don't have to know from right now where the series is going. Though there's pieces in motion. Okay, there's pieces in motion. We just don't know how they'll be strung along, and we'll see what happens. We just really have to wait to the end to do like a post-mortem analysis, being this worked, that didn't work. For now, we gotta enjoy or not enjoy the ride, and then at the end we could talk about the journey in retrospect. That's just my
you're absolutely right. You do gotta finish the ride before you draw any conclusions, and I hope people don't think I am. Like I do not hate.
Sounds like you are
at all.
Just
I guess my only thing is, I guess I'm just a little bit disappointed by how mediocre it is. I thought it would be a step above what it currently is, but I'm still open-minded going into the final 4 episodes. I hope there's some payoff. And I'm still excited for it. I've honestly have been let down, but yeah, you are right, Mike, that you can't seem to make like a proper analysis until something's over. Think about if people started reviewing Rebels as a series, like halfway through like season 2 or something like that, you'd have no idea of how that show was going to go. So still going in with an open mind, but just airing my current thoughts out.
Do you think that it's because like Mando reached like such a high with season 1, and then season 2, I do agree with you, Mike, like as a like contained story, I mean season 1 is just it's a thing of its own, like one of a kind. And then season 2, it does bring in a lot more Star Wars characters, and hey look,
right.
But I mean also the peak of what that last episode, chapter 16, was, and Luke coming back. I mean,
so good.
I've never cried so. I mean, Star Wars doesn't make me cry, but I cried so hard when Grogu and Mando were parting.
Oh,
And like, you know, like,
And then
it
Boba
affected
Fett
me
said,
so much.
well, no need to cry anymore because here's Grogu again.
But you know what I'm saying? It reached such a high that, you know, we are really
you're right.
expecting
You're right.
Mando to blow our socks off every single time, where,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
when you look back in retrospect, season 1 and season 2 definitely have some absolute clunkers, like chapter 4, chapter 5,
sure.
chapter 2, or chapter 10. I mean,
and sorry to the people listening, we'll talk about the episode. We promise.
Yeah, we will talk about the episode.
But this is such a good conversation because we are doing a you know, we're just kind of picking ourselves up. We're just looking back at the journey we've been at so far and kind of reviewing it. But you know, last episode was the lowest rated of the series, and the least watched in the series. Like even the Mando season 3 premiere was like, in terms of,
and another reason for that is because
Book of
people
Boba Fett
are
did.
so confused what is going on. They're like, how is Grogu back? Yeah, exactly, because of Book of Boba Fett. And just to respond to what Brodie was saying about the expectations is
no more
you're
fighting.
You're absolutely right. My expectations were higher for Mando, and I almost don't want to bring those expectations down, because if I expect the show to be at the level it is now, then it's a show that I will still watch, but for most people won't be worth watching because it's not very good.
Yeah, I feel that. It used to be Mando night for me. Like Mando night, I watched with all my friends and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm still pumped to watch, but I'm just like, it doesn't hit the same for me.
It's different,
so.
But again, how much of that is, you know, we're used to it. Like, we're used to it. Like,
Right. It's, of course, like once, you know, I'll be appropriate. Like, you know, once you do one thing over and over again, it just gets tired out and just like, okay, that was fun. That's cool.
Thanks for being
You
appropriate.
know. No, I mean, like if
facts.
you're writing like it was like Rise of the Resistance at Disney. Like it was fun the first time. The second time was as fun. But I'm sure if we wrote it like 20 more times, it'd be like, I'm on this ride that's moving. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
right. All right, let's get into the breakdown. Let's talk about it. I'll put a timestamp for the people, so if people want to skip that, they can.
Dude, nobody's skipping that. That was heat.
That was some of the best podcast conversation we've had for a while. So shout out to Brodie for being a part of that. Obviously we open up. Grogu is playing with rocks. How amazing is that?
I can't with Argo. I can't.
You want to go back to that conversation?
And then, okay. We're with the Mandalorians. They're training. Bo-Katan is kind of looking around. She's a bit confused, but she's interested to see that this is the way. I guess this is what they do. So we'll start with Brodie. What did you think of this opening sequence with the training, and then Grogu, of course, showing what he's worth?
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes, like with all the Mandos, it feels kind of fan filmy. Like, I don't know what it is about. Maybe it's the setting too. Like, it's just like rocky and like they're just all it doesn't make really sense how all these 100 Mandos live in this cave, and like, I don't know.
And
it
also,
kind of feels like they're just like
the color scheme of the armor is, I don't know what the opposite of aesthetically pleasing is, but whatever the opposite is, that's what the color of their armor is.
Yeah,
it's so
it's
ugly
really
to look at.
Yeah.
It's so ugly. Sorry, go on.
Like Boba, like to your point, like Boba Fett has random colors. He's got yellow, green, red here and there, but somehow it's aesthetically pleasing. Obviously, Mando is so cool. I think they're just trying to show that there's all these different, you know,
all the like Bo-Katan looks cool as well. All the main Mandos look great, and in Clone Wars and Rebels, I thought they all looked great. But in this show, all the Mando extras just look awful.
Yeah, it looks odd sometimes. I don't know if you guys noticed, but they did when we're kind of jumping forward. Their costumes for the squad that goes with them to fight the pterodactyl or whatever.
Yeah.
They all have a similar looking design, and they actually look pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but I do agree.
Sure.
Yeah.
The opening scene for me was very cool because it was very reminiscent of Clone Wars as a friend in need, and the way they trained in melee and combat and hand-to-hand combat and just shooting up droids. But these idiots were shooting at the water. I was like, all right, that's
I know.
Great,
so weird, right?
Great target practice. Are you trying to call that crocodile back up again? Like, what's the deal? Because then they're gonna do stupid tactics where they're shooting the outer shell, and I'm just, what's the point? But overall, I thought that little thing was very cool. It felt like a callback to Clone Wars, and I love the I don't know, Brodie, I agree with you. Like seeing all the stuff of them would make me feel like I was watching like a fan film, and not because of the way it was shot or anything, just because of the aesthetics of the costumes. But like for some reason, it didn't feel like that this episode. Maybe just because I'm used to it, but I didn't get that feeling. But I shout out to you because you're the one that said it. I think I was just scared to say it before. And that Luke callback when Grogu was doing his little jumpy jumps with what's the kid's name? Jimmy Kimmel's nephew, Ragnar. That was such a funny moment, and I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna do it now. And just seeing Grogu jump like he did in Book of Boba Fett was great. And Bo-Katan's like, whoa, when did you teach him that? And Mando was like, I didn't. And it was like a callback to Luke, and I'm like, oh man, that hit the heart. Even though I wasn't much of a fan of those episodes, it's still like that happened. That's history. I vibe with it. So that opening sequence to me was very cool, and it did touch the heart. Seeing Mando kind of put his son up to the test, so that was cool. Not sure how that was gonna go, but I just love Favreau's. Like Favreau is such a genius when it comes to like world building, because he just created like something cool like that. What we saw with the training darts and it's like paintballs. I was like, that is so cool, man. So shout out to the man.
No, that was definitely a neat touch. Don't have much to add to that. I completely agree with you guys. I want to talk about the armor for a second, because I said the show lacks development. Well, maybe it's not development, but I think it is, because I'm actually enjoying what we're learning about that character quite a bit. I had this feeling that when Din would go to the waters and would come back and she wouldn't let him back in, and she's actually surprisingly much more open-minded than I thought she would be. Like, she's completely happy with Grogu to be a Mandalorian, even though he doesn't fit the traditional mold of a Mandalorian. And then, of course, she accepts Din back in. She's very happy for Bo-Katan to be a part of it, and even says, you can leave at any time, but just letting you know, you're technically a part of our cult right now. So I've actually enjoyed learning about her. And in this episode, just the way she was treating Grogu and talking to Bo at the end of the episode, I'm jumping forward, I know, but saying like the mythosaur belongs to all Mandalorians. I'm like, wow, surprisingly open-minded for someone who seems to be so stubborn. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I've enjoyed learning about that character quite a bit. What do you think, Brodie?
I think she's like serious about the creed. Like she does not, miss a step. And like you're saying, they have certain rules, and as long as you're following those rules, which Grogu, Bo-Katan, Din are, you're in. And there's no like, I think that's like what is really cool about the Mandalorian culture is that, like, you saw it the second that they were, back into the cult, I guess we're calling it a cult now. They, all the Mandos are fist bumping and high fiving Din and Bo. It's like, you're immediately family, you're immediately part of the group, which I think is really cool. And like you were kind of saying, Mike, I just feel like they are building that world with the Mandalorians. And it isn't just the Mandalorian anymore; it's the Mandalorians. And
right.
That is pretty cool. But I do hope that we can get a little bit more out of those characters. As I don't know, not necessarily backstory. I feel like maybe that'll come, but it is kind of like, okay, who is the armor? Like,
right.
I hope we get those answers eventually, but at this point, she's just the one who makes the rules.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Mike, you have anything to add to that?
I think the armor is a very fascinating character for sure. She annoyed me so much in Book of Boba Fett because I always love that we learn like the history through her, and I feel like she was the Star Wars fan to someone like Din, who was a gateway for all the new fans of Star Wars, all those new viewers to come in and I feel like the armor was that communicator to be like, oh, Bo-Katan was this person, and Din would play the character, embody the fans who just weren't caught up on their Star Wars lore or whatnot, and the armor would be that exposition. So I feel like now I like that she's kind of stabilized her role, where we're learning about her, and I mean, she just likes traumatizing people. I mean, also poor Grogu. I mean, just poor little kid. I was like, oh god, here we go again. She just likes traumatizing.
His face when the thing's coming down, and he's just like, you just know he's having like serious PTSD.
Oh my god,
exactly. So
yeah, it was pretty horrible.
She's all sorts of fun. So I do like her character a lot, but I do like that we've kind of seen like when she took Grogu off, like, come on, young Grogu. What's
the little waddle? Yeah,
the little waddle. What's the what the Foundling, like, come now, Foundling, Grogu, there's much work to do. And she was just like kind of just like spending time with him, like, oh, that was just great. That was fun to see.
I think a lot of people thought the Armorer, including myself, thought the Armorer was potentially going to be a villain down the road, but I don't think I can see her being a villain anymore, to be honest. I just don't think she wants to fight anyone. She's just like, this is the creed where it's welcome to all, but if you're in here, you follow these rules or else we kick you out, or you have to go and bathe in the waters or whatever. But yeah, let's move on to Grogu's PTSD, which was horrible to see his reactions to it, but so much fun at the same time.
Was it?
We already talked about it, but Ahmed Best returns.
It didn't make the episode good. It didn't.
It was the first time this season because I mean, maybe outside of the Mythosaur, I guess that was a big reaction as well. But
Mythosaur, dude. Who cares about that?
Pretty much. Anyway, it was great. Good to see them finish off this sequence. And that does open up a bit of mystery, I suppose. I don't know if they're going to answer in the show with more flashbacks down the road or what's going on, but thought it was great. I guess we've all sort of already talked about the Ahmed Best element of it all. But from the in-universe sort of look at it, Mike, what did you think?
Man, I was like, who's going to come through the door in those clone troopers? I was like, man, they...
Yeah, I know. That felt like I was getting...
Yes, blue balled us very good. I was like, oh man. I was like, all right, that's
cool.
Didn't
know we were saying that, but all right.
You've said it on the pod before. Look it up.
I was like, I didn't.
Yeah,
I alluded to it.
You said it. So sorry. We try to keep it PG, but sometimes But anyways, so that moment was very cool, and I love the continuing shot from the book of Boba Fett, and I love that. That every time we're just getting tidbits because this was definitely a Grogu-centric episode, or was it a Bo-Katan one? We don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I think Grogu. I would push for Grogu being the star of this episode, but the moment where the Jedi were like, "Oh, we're gonna take him to Kelleran," and I was like, "That name sounds familiar." I'm like, "Where's that name from?" And obviously, it's Ahmed's Best Jedi who appeared in like the Star Wars game show.
Jedi
so I thought that was
Challenge.
Temple Challenge. So I thought that was really cool. But in terms of just the lore type stuff, I mean, I kind of felt like they were kind of pushing us over and beating us over the head, like, oh man, you guys want to order 16s, we're gonna do it every single show. I just felt like they kept doing that, which fine, because I do like getting more aspects of it, but every time we would see Order 66 on screen, it would just decrease in impact, and I'm just like, I would rather just like see only a little bit of it where it's just the darkest thing ever, because then we saw it in Bad Batch and it turned out to be a bit goofy. And now I'm not talking about just because of the retcon, but the way Depa Billaba went down, I was like, okay, it doesn't feel as impactful as we just saw it in Clone Wars.
Let's not talk about this.
It feels watered down. And then the next time we saw it was
in can of worms, Mike.
Sorry. And then the next time we saw it was in Book of Boba Fett, and it felt even more watered down. So I was like, can we please stop it? I felt like this was kind of not a return to like the more dramatic stuff, but it was just like we got to see like a up close look, a more personal touch to it, rather than like, oh, Order 66 happened, because we all know what happened, right? But it's just like it was a more nuanced approach with we saw
there was nothing ever to like feel in that episode. It was just like nameless Jedi just like dying for no reason, and then Grogu escapes with Ahmed Best. I was just like, I didn't feel anything the whole. I was like, great. Oh, Grogu escaped. Didn't realize he would escape.
Well, we saw it from.
He's gonna escape.
I mean, yeah, fair enough. But I think we were seeing it from Grogu's eyes, because it literally was the camera was down in his position, and it was just like he was probably like, who are even these Jedi? He was probably like, who? He was probably resting in some daycare center at the Jedi Temple, and be like, who the hell are these people? Like how we were. And until we open the doors and we see a familiar face, like that was epic. But the whole chase sequence, first one, chips again, favorite Star Wars vehicle ever are the gunships. That is my crap. Like that's just I love the gunships. I will spend $50 on a damn gunship. So yeah. So seeing the gunships was great. Seeing the clone troopers, hearing Tamora Morrison's voice, it just felt like we were back in Book of Boba, which is actually a weird experience, but nice.
Just traumatizing.
Yeah. But the music that accompanied the speeder chase, you just saw the temple in the background, and you saw the speeder coming up, and the music, the upbeat music that was playing, reminded me a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it was just nice. It was cool. It's like, yeah, like I love when Star Wars music does Star Wars music, so that was very cool. And leading up to the Naboo Starfighter, I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Are we about to see Grogu board Padme's Starfighter? And we just
that's what I was thinking.
Like, I'm like, are we about to see Natalie Portman? I was like in all the emotions in that scene. And when those troopers first landed on that platform, and I'm like, are they going to shoot at the guards? Because we saw when in Revenge of the Sith, when Order 66 was happening and Bail tried to intervene, and we all questioned, like, wait, are the troopers going to shoot Bail even though he's not a Jedi? And they came close. They came very close. But here they just fought through, and they're like, no, we're gonna kill them through. So that was pretty gut wrenching when the captain was like, no, go, like get out of planet. And I was like, oh man. And they all died to save Grogu. So there must be something larger at play here. They must have had instructions from like Yoda or Bail Organa or Padme herself. So very curious as to, I feel like we'll get a continuation flashback very soon, and see what's next. How about you, Brodie? What was your reaction to all of it?
I do agree with you about the Order 66 stuff. It does feel like it's losing its, I guess not its shine. I mean, it's a depressing moment in Star Wars, but it's losing its its impact. Yeah. When we see it over and over and over again, I mean, it is a part of the story. It's not like they're just showing it to us for nothing, but right. I do feel like we're getting used to seeing it, like kind of like we said earlier about Mando in general, and it's losing its impact for sure. But this scene specifically, I mean, it is cool to see how Grogu got out. And I feel like, Ahmed Best deserves something like that as far as, his journey in Star Wars. So it's definitely cool to see. I don't think, anybody who isn't a diehard is going to know like who he was or that he was part of this Jedi Challenges show. I mean, it took me a second to be like, oh, wow, that's Ahmed Best. Yeah, he was in the show. I didn't even realize that they had said what you said, Mike, like the Jedi are like, get him to Kelleran or whatever. I didn't even hear that the first time. But I loved it. I thought it was cool seeing him wield the dual lightsabers. I mean, that was sick. I mean,
yeah, that was a cool look. One green, one blue.
I feel like the choreography was great and everything. Yes. Like, I mean, it was awesome. And when you really start to think about what that dude went through, I did watch the episode again, like just a couple hours ago. And I honestly started to like well up a little bit because it like hit me more of the fact that like this is Ahmed Best and this man like really was at the, almost ended it all because of Star Wars. And now he's back in Star Wars playing really the most important Jedi that's in Star Wars at this moment. Yeah. And that's just awesome, dude. And
it just made him more powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, in Star Wars and in real life, which is just amazing to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think the general audience, it's not going to be, they're not going to even understand.
Fine, though.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know what? I was at work today and where I work, there's these high school volunteers, and sometimes they come and they don't bug me, but they come and talk to me about everything and whatever. And they were talking about me because they saw my little Instagram post, and they're talking about Mando with me. And so I was like curious because they're like hardcore Star Wars fans, but I don't think they would even know about that. So they hadn't seen the new Mando episode yet, and I was like, I feel comfortable like not spoiling it, but being like how they would feel about the Jedi. So I asked them like, who would be a Jedi that would save Grogu? And they were throwing me all these names like Kit Fisto, Plo Koon, and all these guys. And I was like, no. Do you guys know Ahmed Best? And they're like, who's that? And I was like, yeah. I was like, so Jar Jar Binks saves Grogu, and they just went insane. Like, Jar Jar Binks? Wait, I thought he was a Sith Lord. And it was just so funny. But then I was like, no, it's like the actor, and like, oh, and they thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I feel like once people learn about it, like through fact pages, like us and stuff.
Yeah.
Not that we're fact pages, but once we put out the news, people will be like, oh my god, that's the coolest thing ever, you know.
And I'm sure there'll be a great piece on it in the Disney Gallery or something for this season of Mando, which will be cool.
For sure. Yeah.
Where is Quinlan Voss? I keep thinking that he's gonna be, you know, in Kenobi. They mentioned him and whatnot. Like,
they got to be saving him for something. It's like they could have put him in so many stories by now that I'm so sure they're saving him for something, because Quinlan Voss is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I'm so giddy to see him again.
Love that Maverick,
and in live action too. Like, I mean, come on.
He will be back. By the way, that piece of armor that the armorer put on Grogu, I was like, oh, that looks goofy as. But she did say you have to grow into this or whatever. But I was like,
she gave him a bulletproof vest, and you're saying, oh, that's goofy.
But listen, what if when he gets a little bigger, that's like his shield, and then
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and he's making fun of it. It could save his life.
I'm sure she literally says you'll have to grow into it. But I'm saying no crap. Because
it's not about the look, man. It's about the protection. You know,
sure. Anyway, let's talk about the campfire, because I thought that was a good scene where Bo is sort of starting to get, I guess, almost respected. Paz says, you know, you get to stay and eat at the fire because that's just what you get to do. I thought that was a cool scene. Mike, what do you think of it?
Yeah, Bo-Katan. So Bo-Katan and Bo-Katan. Oh yeah, and Bo-Katan. No, I thought that was a cool scene. Ari looks so annoyed at me right now.
I'm just like, Bo-Katan, great.
Look, that was such a cool scene to me, because I'm like, oh wait, yeah, where do they? And I really thought Mando was gonna say, we don't, and I was like, oh
yeah,
okay.
Me too.
I was like, okay, cool.
I thought they were all just gonna go like, I mean, you guys can do it because you have the helmets, but you know when they like just slightly lift it up.
Yeah.
I thought it was just gonna be one of those operations.
We all pick a spot, and I was like, all right, well, that sounds very cultish, but y'all do you.
That is very cultish.
But Bo-Katan, when it was just cool seeing her face again, because I'm like, Katie Sackhoff, are you still there? But she took off her helmet, so it's all good. But yeah, I thought that was an endearing scene, and it was also like, I don't need a conversation with a descendant of Vizsla, pre-Vizsla right now with Bo-Katan, but it was just so cool having that exchange between Paz Vizsla and Bo-Katan, because there was that moment in last week's episode where Paz Vizsla was just kind of like couldn't see his eyes, but it looked like he was scowling down Bo-Katan when she was initiated into the group, and he just looked like, oh, I'm gonna start trouble with her. And then once she proved herself this episode and saving his son, then he was like, oh, my respect's earned. He's
my son.
Yeah. So you saved my son. You stay here. You eat in the fire. So I thought that was cool. That was a touching moment. We could sit here and say the so far the season has been fluff, but I like that. I like that little thread that was carried over from last week, and there's just a moment of endearment, you know?
Yeah.
I'll give the show due. Is it much? Is it ground changing? No. Is it groundbreaking? No, but it's nice, and I will shout that out. So shout out to that.
I'm actually very excited to see with Bo-Katan. She's been preaching about, Mandalorians need to stop fighting Mandalorians. I'm excited to see almost, I don't know if they're going to reveal it or do a flashback, or she's just going to tell them what's going to happen. But her to say, well, I was actually part of this problem 20 years ago because I was a Mandalorian fighting Mandalorians. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like she's just like, yeah, look at me. I'm the ideal Mandalorian, but it's like, no, you're not. You're all twisted and kind of silly. So it's going to be cool to see that be brought to the front, and Din to almost find out that as well. So yeah, right. I think the Armorer and Paz and all that, they know who she is. They know what's up.
Yes.
How do they guarantee that nobody's going to walk back around when she's got her helmet?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, for real.
Din is dumb enough that he's going to walk around.
He'd be like, "Well, I swear I didn't see anything."
Yeah, exactly.
Are you eating? Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Paz Vizsla saves his son. Great, and I'll tell you what, something this season has done so well. We got payoff for the crocodile scene, because the crocodile came out of the water and ate the reptile. I mean, Good job, Mandalorian. That's good storytelling, right?
You know,
there.
I thought you were gonna go somewhere with that, and I was clapping prematurely. And look at you. No, that was a cool Jurassic Park moment. Like that was a Jurassic.
Yeah, that was sick.
That was a Jurassic World moment. You know, and then also a callback to Phantom Menace. It's always a bigger fish type deal. So I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you know what? Now that you say that, it's actually a great scene.
Ari, not every single thing pay off in the end for you, man. You can just have fun with Star Wars.
No. I'm playing the part of it. I really don't hate it that much. But anyway, Paz does save his son, and we end the episode off with Bo-Katan asking to get a mythosaur signet or whatever on her shoulder, which was cool. Brodie, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's her kind of accepting the new aspects of where she's at in her, Mandalorian journey. I think it's her being a part of the cult now, and she looks sick with that silver, pauldron on. So, I feel like it's not that deep. I like how the armorer said that the mythosaur is for all Mandalorians, because I did start to wonder that when Boba Fett, had that signet on his armor. When Din got his signet, it was kind of like, oh, so did Boba like defeat the mythosaur? Why did he have that one? So I'm glad she kind of clarified that the mythosaur is for everybody. So I'm getting that tatted right here tomorrow.
What about you?
No, I like that scene a lot because it brought it back to people complaining like, how come she didn't tell Din? And I was like, well, I think she was just I think she was just so shocked that she just kept it to herself and was like, am I saying things? Yeah. And then we had like a full circle moment where she was like, well, I feel like it's like when people say they saw like a UFO or a ghost, like they don't want to tell other people because they don't want to sound crazy, right?
Yeah.
When it could be something that they could have actually seen. So it's like I feel like it was one of those moments where she didn't want to tell anyone. Like, did you see that? Definitely. No, you didn't see it. Okay, great. I didn't see anything either. But then she came full terms with it and was like, I saw one of those things, and then she just like honored it by placing it back because it brought her back to her roots.
She tries to tell the armor, and the armor's like. Walking the way of the Mandalore makes you see many things.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. But I like that she actually spoke up about it because that whole moment where she was leading up to that moment, it was her talking about her history with her father and stuff and how she didn't take any of those things seriously. And then she got spooked by the thing that it has it's just changed her. It's kind of been a motivator for something else, a part of Mandalorian of her that hasn't been explored. So yeah, she's definitely going down that more like conservative route with the Mandalorian culture and everything, but we'll see where it goes.
Definitely changed her perspective. How about you, Brodie?
Well, it was interesting because the armor is saying like, I don't think you saw it. It was a vision,
Yeah.
So I think even Bo's maybe doubting herself at this point. Did I see it actually or not? And do I think I'm just the best Mandalorian of all time, and I'm the one who's going to find the mythosaur? But no, I feel like we are, we're talking payoff here. Something's going to come out of this mythosaur.
Oh, yeah. I said this last podcast. I just really hope it's not like a Boba Rancor situation where it's like all of us in the finale, Bo-Katan just comes out with the mythosaur out of nowhere. I like to see there be a build up and then payoff instead of just like Boba says, I'd like to ride the Rancor, and then he rides the Rancor.
Well, I kind of feel like Grogu is got to be a part of this mythosaur thing because we've seen his affinity for creatures and how he can tame them, and I mean, it doesn't seem like how would one person tame that thing or like take control of that without the use of the Force? And I mean, that was almost going all the way back to the very beginning of the story of Mandalorian.
I'm shaking my head no at Brodie because I'm getting flashbacks to when he puts the Rancor to sleep in Book of Boba.
You don't like that?
I thought it was cute, but if we did that again, I would get tired.
Okay, well, he's not going to put him to sleep. He's going to
feed him.
Yeah, he's
going
to
explode.
He's going to have a party with him. I don't know. I don't know. It does not seem like, one person would be able to tame it or something. Maybe that's why we're seeing so much of the Mandalorians together fighting these beasts, because we're going to see them all fight this mythosaur together or try and tame this mythosaur together.
Yeah.
That
would be cool if they unite and did together instead of saying like, we need one leader. It's like, sure, you can have a leader, but it's like, if you all just work together, then maybe something good can come of Mandalore. So no, good points. And that is the episode. That is how it is. Brodie already gave his ranking, but we'll go through again and I'll do a rating of the episode.
Do the ratings.
No worries. Well, Brodie, say again, out of 10 and summarize your thoughts on the episode.
Quickly.
Well, now that we've kind of gone over it, I think I'd probably actually give it I'm along the lines with Ari, probably like a 2 out of 10. No, I'd probably go 7.5 out of 10. I do think there were some really good moments. I feel like this show is living on moments right now. Like, we're seeing these peaks in the episode where we're getting this awesome content, obviously.
I'll tell you why, Brodie, because there's no substance. So they just want to flash something in your face to go, look at this. The show's actually still relevant because there's a mythosaur.
I'm eating it up.
Shame on you, Ari, for saying that. And also shame on you, Brodie, for calling stories content. We are not Elon Musk. We are not Apple. This is art. Thank you.
I don't know if this is art, but sure.
Oh, my. You see, I can't win both of you.
Ari swaying me right now. It's just content, man. It's
so 7.5 out of 10?
Yeah.
That's my score. Let's shake on it as duality.
All right, great for the duality.
You guys,
Mike's just frozen and then come back. I don't know.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now.
Oh my god! Hopefully the audio people heard me, but 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah. No,
I shook Brodie's hand. Okay, thank you, Ari. Go ahead.
That sounded so mean. Yeah, we got it. I didn't mean it like that. Anyway, all right. My score is. I actually don't know. Nothing too bad. Like maybe a 6.5.
Oh, come on! You're talking all this smack, dude.
6 or 6. I told you, I don't hate it at all. It's hopelessly mediocre, and that's just how I feel about it. 6.5. If all Star Wars became 6.5, I'd be pretty disappointed. That's all. But
so
it's fine.
Would you rather know more Star Wars or 6.5 Star Wars?
Just give him the ultimatum.
Honestly, I'm dead serious. No more Star Wars.
Yeah.
If the rest of Star Wars was going to be like this, I want it to stop.
I'd honestly be down for a break. Honestly, like a year goes by before the next movie's coming out. Like they should just take a break and like
to make people anticipate.
This, week after week of a new episode. I mean, people just, Andor was almost 12 hours of art.
Yeah,
and. People loved it.
Thank you for correcting yourself. So you learn lessons when you come on the Star Wars Exchange.
People love that show, but I didn't hear a word about it after it was done.
It's true. It's true.
And same thing.
Things get put in the news cycle and they're everywhere, and then it just disappears like it never existed.
Even with Kenobi, I mean, come on, like we saw. I mean, you can say what you want about the whole series as a whole, but like some of the moments in that show are.
Here we go.
Top of the top, at least to me. I don't know about you guys, but
so you know what, Brodie?
Everyone's cool.
You know what I love about you, Brodie? You made awesome stickers. I appreciate it.
For real though, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on, Brodie. This has been one of the weirdest podcasts we've done. Usually we're much more structured than this.
That's what I bring to the table. Guys.
We went off the rails, and I think we produced a better episode for it. So thanks heaps for being a part of it. And Tell the people where they can find you until you're next on the exchange.
My zip code is 92. No, I appreciate that, man. My podcast is called The Simple Man Podcast. You can find me on all the platforms that these guys are on. My YouTube is Brodie1 Kenobi. I'm definitely trying to keep that going and keep that consistent. So check me out there.
And of course, follow him on Instagram at officially _Star Wars. That's your name,
Yes, sir. Yep, it's the one that people only follow me because it's official. So
it is official. It is official.
Yeah, that's my theory. And to all you guys listening, for real, we're about to hit sooner, in a couple weeks. We're about to hit 10,000 audio listens. So shout out to our audio community. If you're listening Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the other ones, Stitcher, Google Play. Playcast, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll save that old speech later, but just looking at the numbers every week and all the downloads we get, I'm just like, what the heck? People care about what we say. So yeah.
But most importantly, to the favorite child, our YouTube listeners, subscribe, hit the like button.
No, Apple Podcasts and Spotify people are becoming my favorite child because the YouTube people are very cool. But audio, I'm just like, man, that's so cool.
We love you all. We love you all.
So you guys, the ones on audio have more of a bigger retention rate than the YouTube ones. But YouTube, if you're here, let us know what you thought of the episode. Do you agree with Brodie? Do you disagree? Do you agree with Ari? Do you disagree? Let us know.
I wouldn't agree with Ari, but
yeah, we'll make sure you go on your account and let us know in the comments. But as for me, you guys can find me on _Star Wars and make sure to follow the SW Exchange account on Instagram because we got juicy content coming up there. And Ari, you guys can find him at Star Wars _Exchange on Instagram. And for me, for Ari, and for Brodie, this has been the Star Wars Exchange. Thank you for listening. Until next time, may the Force be with you. Adios.
See ya.